What is up? What is up? What is up? Happy Tuesday, ladies and gents. This is Flash from ALWT Gaming, aka Malachi36. I am here with It's the 9-Ball Corner Pocket. How are you doing, good sir?
Awesome. I'm doing excellent today.
Are you? I'm not gonna lie. I didn't hear it in your tone. You're like, oh, I'm good. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I'm doing fantastic. What have you been up to over the weekend, man? What's been new with you? I feel like I haven't talked to you in like a decade and a half.
I've been having family, so it's been mostly with them. Like I said, besides that, I played a lot of Cyberpunk. So, like I told you off stream, I'm basically at the end. I'm at the last mission. So I decided to pick up the Amazon delivery sims, aka Death Stranding, and I've started on that too. Besides that, playing Smite, and I completely updated my Final Fantasy 14. So that was up and running again, and a little bit of WoW.
Nice. Busy guy. I gotta give a shout out to Adrian White for the like. Thank you very much again for that. Appreciate you, man. And I'm going to go on over here to my other comrade here, mi amigo. You were on the episode with me last week when we were talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, along with LSB Live. Shout out to you. How are you doing, man? What's going on? What's new?
Just you know what? I'm just living my best life. Just playing a bunch of video games, watching a bunch of anime, reading a lot of manga, and just living it up, man. I played so far, like these past couple days, I've actually been playing a lot of Jump Force.
Yeah.
I know you and I have been talking about that a couple days ago, and I was just kind of going through my library of games on my PS5, and I was like, man, like, what games can I download on here? Like, what games like do I want to see how they run on the PS5? I was like, oh, you know what? Let me just test out Jump Force, even though like and you even were pretty confident that like they don't have like a PS5 port or like any sort of like updates. If anything, like it feels like maybe the loading times are a little bit better, but other than that, it's pretty much just the same game. Story is really not that good, but the combat for it, I like it keeps me playing for hours. Like you just make a character, you dress them up like I've had my person look like All Might. I've had him look like Deku. I gave him like a nice fancy suit. That way he can kind of go in there like Men in Black and do what he needs to do. So it's such a fun game. It's just one of those games that like you play for a little bit and then you get bored of it, and then like you might like jump onto it like a year or so down the line, and then you're like, oh, I forgot about this. This is fun. But I've also been playing more Gravity Rush, which is one of my all-time favorite games, which was originally released on a special device that we'll be talking about later.
Yeah, we are.
But how have you been, sir? How have you been? I know that we had our podcast not too long ago, All Day Anime, but how have you been over the past 2 days?
I've been pretty good. As you can see, I got my Aces is Wild, the Wild Aces jersey from Kind of Funny Games Daily. And anyone doesn't know, that just means that we're champions because they won the fan controlled football. No big deal, you know what I mean? But yeah, this thing is very comfortable. I will say this, it's from Champion, so what size you really are, go with that. Don't go any higher. If anything, you might even have to go smaller, because normally, and I've just been in this headspace as far as, and by the way, what up my gaming homies, Mildewy Carrot, shout out to you, good sir. But yeah, no, like lately I've been actually ordering more stuff that's from like Japan and Tokyo and whatever. So normally I'm going up like 2 or 3 sizes just so I can make sure that it fits. If it's a little big, okay, I can deal with it. This
like
thing's
normal
like
US sizes.
Yeah, this thing's like a freaking dress. Man, like, look at this. Hold on, I'm going to stand up so I can show you guys exactly how long this thing is. I can still make it work, but it's just like I had to finagle the way it looks on me. Check this out.
It better not look like a nightgown. Wow, yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, it's all the way. It's crazy. It's insane.
It does look like a little bit like a nightgown.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like I said, if you guys plan on ordering any shirts from Fan Control Football, just know that it does come directly from, Fan Control Football, FCF That's the site and everything like that. Just recently, and they're probably going to rotate out celebrities if they continue this thing going on. Yeah. Quavo and I think it was Richard Sherman were controlling the football team called the Glacier Boys. Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games Daily and another person was controlling the Wild Aces. There's like 4 teams out there. So yeah, so if you do decide to go ahead and get a shirt, and I love it. I think it feels very comfortable. I just wish I got a XL or a large even over a double XL, because that's what I got, and this thing is huge. Like I feel like if I just like kneel down, I'll be the Ninja Turtles when they're dodging projectiles at them. You know what I mean? But ultimately, though, I'm having a good time. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, which I'm proud to say on stream. I'm officially out of Realm Reborn, and I am in Heaven's Word, which that story...
You did it.
Yeah, man. That story is really good. That story is really good, and there's characters at the end of it that I absolutely hate and despise. Like, it was crazy. And I can't wait to see what Heaven's Word looks like, but I can kind of see a hint of what the final DLC that's currently out right now is going to look like, just because of how Realm Reborn ended. It was pretty dark. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that. Definitely playing a little bit more Fatal Bullet, because I'm trying to get to the Lyricist Alicization, because I definitely want to go ahead and play more of that Sword Art Online game. A fun time, good time there. And yeah, and then of course, you guys already know, this Thursday, Mugen Train, Demon Slayer, that's going on this 10 p.m. For us. That's when we're going to watch it. I know, and then last night, I know that It's the Nine Ball had actually sent out some reviews that came out for it with IGN, giving it a 7 out of 10. So I'm very curious to see what that is. Because their description inside on their article didn't really match up the score that they gave it, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious of why it was as low as it was. Was it just because it was an anime, or was it because, you know what I mean? I'm ultimately curious about that.
Wondering if it's just because of how hyped up it's been. I mean, the first season of Demon Slayer ended in 2019. Yeah, it's been X amount of time. Like, it premiered sometime like fall or winter in Japanese theaters. So like, it's been a while. Like, it is broken records over in the Japanese box office. So I'm sure that like now coming over here to the US, there's a lot of high expectations for it, and I'm wondering if they were just like, oh, this didn't really blow me away. Like, it was great, but like it just didn't like blow me away like I expected it to. Yeah. I'm wondering if it's just kind of one of those deals.
And it very well could be, or it could be something that really is like a little above a mediocre. It may not be amazing, or maybe it is amazing and the person that reviewed it just happens to like every so often in anime.
My question of this is, did the guy watch the series?
The series before that? Yeah, that's kind of why I'm getting at, is that if he hasn't watched it, then he might think that's a really cool action movie, but it's nothing that blows his mind, because maybe there was some stuff in there that was referencing the series or whatever. So only time will tell, and luckily we don't have to wait too long. We only got 2 days, and then of course we're going to talk about it on All Day Anime. But guess what? All Day Anime is on Saturday now. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This one's going to only be 30 minutes. But yeah, it's your guys' new time, and it's also going to be updated on the ALWTgaming.com. That's www.alwtgaming.com schedule. So you guys will see that updated here probably after the show. But moving forward, we are no longer doing all-day animes on Sundays. It is this Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually kind of perfect, because some animes do come out on Saturday. So we don't have to wait a full 24 hours to talk about it. We could talk about it a couple hours later. You know what I mean? So very
talking about it right then.
Yep. How dare you, Mildewy Care says. I mean, blame your boy here, because he got promoted, making that money, making it rain in his bank account. You know what I mean?
Can't help it. You know what? They offered it to me. I said, you know what? Sure, let's go for it. It's makes my world a whole lot easier. Comes with a little raise, and I'm like, you know what? Sure, let me just make some more money, and let's just do some more stuff with the ALWT. Let's go.
There you go.
Let's do it.
And of course, and of course he said raise, not the raise energy, which you can actually go ahead and get at reppsports.com. Type in ALWT Gaming at checkout. Get 50% off, 15% off. Hey, you set me up. I mean, you said it, I spike it. You feel me? I feel like that was perfect. I feel like that was perfection.
Thank you.
We can't get mad at you for that.
Yeah. But enough about that. We've been goofing out for a little too long. We got 5 stories today to talk about, guys. And the very first story is our thumbnail, which you guys probably don't see because I don't think I updated it yet. But it is our thumbnail, and it is The Vita Lives. Living La Vida Loca. You feel me?
Lives.
Yeah, so Alessandro Barbosa from GameSpot says Sony has reversed the course on a controversial move, stating on that it now plans to continue supporting purchasing functionality for the PS Vita and the PS3 after previously planning to shut it down the stores this summer. The PSP will still be closed as planned. The move comes from mid-weeks of outcry from PlayStation fans, many of whom criticize the company for removing their ability to continue purchasing games for both platforms they still use. In a post on the PlayStation blog, Sony Interactive Entertainment president and CEO Jim Ryan explained that the company understood it was the wrong move. Recently, we notified players that the PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita devices were planned to end this summer, says Ryan. Quote, upon further reflection, however, it's clear that we made the wrong decision here. So I'm happy to say that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices. PSP commerce functionality will retire July 2nd, 2021 as planned. So this is fantastic news for anyone that's really trying to make sure that they still have that portable accessibility. And I think one of the reasons why that the PSP is not being restored is because, remember this, when did the PS Vita come back?
Ooh. It's old. The PSP, the PSP. I'll say this. Sorry to jump in there, but the PSP is so old that the battery for my PSP has swollen.
I need to check mine. Let me go grab mine. Actually,
you probably should. There was actually like an article I read like months ago that was talking about how batteries inside of like older PSPs were swelling. I was like, oh, I should probably check mine. Lo and behold, there it is, the little marshmallow in there, like just pushing the back panel of my PSP off. But thankfully, it's only like with my old school like silver slim PSP, and it's not with my PlayStation Vita right here. It's currently charging, so
yeah,
I gotta bust it out. I gotta test this out. And I gotta say, I think out of all three of us, we're all kind of on that boat. We're all pretty happy about the Vita.
Mm-hmm. LSB Lab in the chat says, I don't care. PSP is wonderfully beautiful. So, hey, I don't blame you. I think that PSP was an amazing piece of tech. I think here's the reason why I think that they decided to keep the Vita store going and the PS3 store going, but not the PSP. One, majority of the stuff that's on the PSP right now, you can get on the Vita. That's one. Two, PS3 came out, then the PS Vita came out, and then the PS4 came out. So one of the biggest things that it was doing was trying to have you be in that sense of convenience and compatibility with the three systems. Because at one point, I owned all three systems. I still have my Vita technically, but the charge port for that is just completely fried. I had to get a whole new console, new handheld console, which I do intend to go ahead and pick up. Because that was actually had a Vita earlier this year. And I got rid of it because my memory card that I had back on my previous time period where I had all these games on and all this saved data, that ended up corrupting. So I would have to get a whole new, so like the Vita couldn't even recognize my actual card itself being in there. So yeah, it was just a whole hot mess. And I was like, this really sucks. So with that being said, at the time, I wasn't willing to go ahead and restart over, and I could use the money. So I just went ahead and took it back, got my full refund, moved on with it. Now I have a Switch, which I have down here, which Mildewy Carrot inside here says PSP versus the Switch, ready, fight. I don't think that's going to be a thing. I don't think
that's fair. I don't think that's a fair comparison at all.
Yeah, but even so, I don't think that's going to be a thing. They're two entirely different markets. They do this very similar stuff. But they're two entirely different markets. I don't think that's competition. I think both of them are going to be good in their lane. It's just that Sony hasn't really paid that much attention to the Vita portion until it sounds like now. Maybe they'll actually do something with it. And then on here, LSB Live says, well, yeah, also Vita are compatible, but the switch over PSP to Vita is trash. Wait, but to switch over for PSP to Vita is trash. I didn't mind that. I actually did enjoy my PS Vita. More so than my PSP, to be honest with you. I think that the back buttons to me were useless. I never really used them on PSP.
It just and that's just the thing. Like especially like whenever new technology comes out for gaming, like whatever companies like introducing it, they're like, oh, this is revolutionary, this is going to change the face of gaming, and like 9 times out of 10 it just doesn't. Like it usually never does. I will make the argument that probably one thing that actually did revolutionize gaming was the Wii remote. Like the Wii controller definitely like paved the way for like the PlayStation Move controller. I would also argue that it paved the way for Kinect. Absolute, my God.
What system was that?
But that, and like also like when you look at like VR games, like any sort of like VR controllers, like it's kind of like
Vive and I can't remember what Valve's is. Valve something.
It's just a shame that more often than not, like whenever they have these revolutionary ideas, like you only have like so many game developers that are willing to get their feet wet and actually try to implement it. And sometimes, like more often than not, like you'll see that they just kind of play it safe. They just don't really do much with it. Like even with my gosh, my cat's just meowing in the background. I'm sorry. But like even like to the extent of like you and I were talking about this earlier this week, like the touchpad on the PlayStation remotes. Like they just like there's so much utilization with that. Like even with the PS5 ones, you can like write stuff on it. It's that sensitive.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's just like a glorified menu button or like a glorified map button.
Yeah. That's 100%.
That's really all you use it.
To bring up the map screen.
That's 100% accurate.
Man, I'm lost. Where am I at?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate too, because like so I can think of a couple things that I utilize that touchpad for on the PS4, and one of them was strictly for their menu. So the first one was Warframe. I used it for that because of the abilities and stuff. On Ghost of Tsushima, so that's fast forwarding from the beginning of PS4 all the way to the end of PS4, because Ghost of Tsushima was the last PS4 title that came out before the next gens really happened. So Ghost of Tsushima was when I was able to actually use the flute, go ahead and sheath my weapon or draw my weapon, summon my horse or whatever. So like, or even see where I have to go next. So that part was kind of cool. Inside the chat, ALWT Live says this from PSP cannot be used to the Vita. Yeah, you're correct about that. That definitely was something that was hindering that as far as like a game that you already purchased. I think at that particular time period though, as far as all organizations came across, I don't think they found an effective way to transfer your data from a hard copy of a PSP to the Vita. I honestly don't think that was something that was actually really fully possible during that time period because of how old this is.
I mean, I think you could actually just plug your PSP into your computer, upload like your save files to there, and then try to transfer them over to the Vita.
Well, he's talking about as far as the sense of having to rebuy it. Like it's just like how it is.
Completely rebuy it.
Yeah, it's just like how it is even right now with the PS4. If you have a PS4 game and you bought a PS5 digital, you're out of luck. You have to rebuy that game anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I think that same scenario is going back to how it was for PSP to PS Vita. But even then, I think it was even more so. We just didn't have the technology at that time period to do that as simplistic. And of course, there's going to be some stuff that's hidden to us that they probably overviewed and tried to see if they were able to make possible. Probably just super expensive. But now that's starting to be a thing now to where you can just have the disc, put it in there, you're good to go. ALWT Lab says killing to the store on the PS3 was done because a lot of those games have not been updated to moved over to the PS4. Now Sony just needs to solve the ticking time bomb that they have in the PS3 and PS4. I disagree with that. And I say that because up until this point, it's been kind of a known thing for Sony ever since PS2 is that PS2 to PS3, they did try to do that whole backwards compatibility thing. And that's when Xbox 360 just straight up took the lead on that. Because that was really expensive for a PS3 console. It was like $1,000. Games were like 120 at that point.
There was a lot of useless hard drive also they talked about in the PS3.
Yeah, and at
They
that
still
point,
talk about that.
one of the things that they did was just focusing on the future. So from the beginning of PS3 up until this point, that's all it's been. So that's not anything. I don't think that's a ticking time bomb. I just think that was the business decision, and I honestly don't mind that business decision because all the stuff that they have been coming out with have been bangers. Again, Horizon Zero Dawn, they're able to focus on that because they're not so worried about the past games. Uncharted, same thing. You're able to make sequels with that. Last of Us, you know what I mean? Spider-Man, Miles Morales. You have Spider-Man 2018. You have God of War. You have Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, you have all these other types of games that's coming out, and that's just because that's what PlayStation wants to push is the games. And of course, now on the flip side, Xbox has been focusing on having everything in one area. Doesn't matter if you have an Xbox One. I was about to say Xbox One, but it's really the original Xbox all the way until Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X. Doesn't matter. If you own the game, you own the game. And that's a convenient thing. That's a great thing. But that was always one of the arguments that gamers have was like, Xbox, where are the games? We're starting to get a little bit more with Game Pass, and that's fantastic. That's great. But they're still waiting on first, like, where are all the games at? You know what I mean?
Well,
and go ahead.
I actually, in a matter, disagree with you. I believe that backwards compatibility is huge. I mean,
especially nowadays.
Yeah, just recently I bought the Shadow Man remake. It's supposed to like a PlayStation 1 game that I recently picked up. I mean, every once in a while you have a feeling of nostalgia or something. Oh, you might want to play like, I might, maybe it's like Halloween or something, and maybe you want to play like Crimson Butterflies, Fatal Frame Crimson Butterflies. That's not really out on any other console except for, what was it, the OG Xbox. Or maybe Siren Blood Curse, which I picked up for the PlayStation 4, and this came out, I think, PlayStation 2 or 3. I can't remember which one it came. I want to say PS2 this came out on, but they had it on PS4, and I've heard about it. I never got a chance to play it. There's sometimes where you want to check out backwards compatible games, because maybe, I mean, like I said, maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe you just want to get more into this lore. Maybe you try like a new game. Let's say you try it out. You pick up a PS5 for the first time. You play The Last of Us 2. Maybe you want to play like The Last of Us 1.
Choose a different title. That's a bad example because of how many remakes they're doing for that.
Yeah. That's the argument for another day with the remakes. But I feel like it's hugely important to have stuff to have backwards. I mean, you should be able to have a bunch of games. Since you bought them, you should be able to play them at your request and not really have to go and fetch an old console. Like I said, I bought Shadow Man Remake. I bought Mortal Kombat 4, Mortal Kombat 1 through 3. I've also picked up, what else? Oh, Metal Gear Solid. The original Metal Gear Solid, they had it on there, and Silent Hill 4. All of them from GOG store, but you know, it's good to have those games because I do every once in a while. I do like to go back and replay them. I like to go back every once in a while, maybe play Dead Space.
Yeah.
And you know, like for example, we were talking about earlier, we were talking about playing Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah.
For example, going back and I mean, for me, I want to go back and replay it. I played it, but it was like years ago.
Yeah. I
don't really remember the storyline. The only thing I remember is that I barely won because Freya was in jump mode, and to be honest, it killed whatever attack she did, killed everybody on my team. Freya was the only one because she was a lantern. I used jump for her ability, and it kept me alive to win the match.
That's what's up. And this is definitely one thing I want to clarify.
Taking notes over here.
This is definitely something I want to clarify.
Sure.
I'm definitely not saying that backwards compatibility is not important depending on the type of gamer you are. I was just saying in general, going from PSP to PS Vita at that time period, that transition, I don't think that they were there yet technology wise.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, and this is, and even to go further at that time period. This is already, like, the Vita came in towards the middle-ish, end-ish portion of PS3. At this point, PlayStation was just like, you know what? We're going to look towards the future. All these backwards compatible games that we used to have, you might just have to buy the digital version down the road or something. And
Well,
I see that on both sides. I see both sides of that, and I say that because of here. Say if I have a VHS of The Sandlot, but I don't have I have a VCR that's not plugged up. It's inside storage. But I want to go ahead and watch The Sandlot, the VHS. I want to go and watch the VHS of Sandlot on my smart TV. Now, will I go ahead and...
This looks like...
Yep. What is that?
Will I go ahead and hook up my VCR? Or will I just go ahead and purchase it on Amazon for $6? You know what I mean? So like that convenience is already something that even today we expect it more in video games, honestly, and I'm not really entirely sure why, especially if you still have the older systems, but we expect that convenience in video games, but in other areas we're still not even there yet. So I guess it's correct on both sides, because I don't buy, and I said this before and I still stick with this, it'll be nice that I can go back and play those nostalgic type games. It'll be nice for me to go ahead and just turn on my PS5 and bam, I can go ahead and purchase Final Fantasy 2 for $5. But that's not going to be preventing me from buying a PS5 to go ahead and because of that. Like, I buy the new systems for the new games that's coming out and for the future that's going to happen. It's a nice perk to have those nostalgic moments, which is, I think that's a baller move of why the Vita store is going to stick around still, because now they're on the Vita store. They have the PlayStation 1 classics. They have the I think even some PS2 titles that's able to be on the digital, of course, but PS2 titles that's on the PS Vita. They're going to still have the PSP games. They're still going to have the PS Vita games that's going to be out for it. So I think that's all great, but that wouldn't be that. If we're talking about next gen stuff, I don't think that is really a necessity. It's nice, but I don't think it's a necessity to be a selling point. I think Xbox did it well, all in one system. You have that, and that's fantastic. But again, ultimately you want to make sure that you're getting future games too as well.
Well, here's the thing with most of what you said. I do partially agree with you, and I watched this thing about that because the only bad thing about me sometimes is I'm mostly PC gamer. We don't go console generation, so certain things I don't think about. I just think it should be playing on everything, because on PC I could play Mass Effect 1 whenever I want to, because you just have your PC run like it's an XP. Boom, it's playing. Like I said, I play Mortal Kombat. The older games, like I showed with that, the Transformers, I had to rebuy that on DVD, by the way. It's because basically...
Well, what's a DVD? We got Blu-ray. Go ahead.
Tech changes, and this is one of the biggest problems. Like, I agree with what you're saying with newer consoles, because I still want to have your old ones, but you want to focus more on the future. I mean, they're there, and I'm glad that they finally starting to realize, we want to make it so it's able to transfer most of it. But probably in the older days, I know the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 had an entirely different architecture, because I believe they was, I want to say, working more with Linux.
Yeah.
I think
they
so.
was very Linux focused back then.
Yeah.
And then you go to PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 3 is an entirely different machine. Probably a totally different architect than the PlayStation 4. I mean, I'm glad to see that now the 4 and 5, but I understand what you're coming from. I just believe they should have a bit of, you want to be able to get your games there, but I don't believe they should focus on it. I believe they should have their architect there the way you can play them, but we're going to not put all our attention on here. We're going to instead go forward with here.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Because here's the thing. We're gamers. We're probably going to be gamers till we're 89. You know what I mean? The thing, though, is that who are they going to be marketing now? That is another thing to keep in mind. Most of these people that they're going to be trying to market and have a long customer in, like, yes, they're going to be us because we're gamers for life. But at the same time, they're going to want to reach that generation that they can start having newer experiences with. ALWT Lab is blowing up the chat over here. I'm going to read all this real quick. Now so needs itself to take. All right, so they just can't have them on the PS3 then. One system craps out that you can't play any of their old games, correct? If my PS3 died and I'm not able to play through the FF13 series of Ninja Gaiden, wasn't getting remastered once the PS3 craps out, and I can't play out any of those. So again, so like kind of all of this is not, and he ends off saying Sony needs to fix it. I don't think that they need to fix it. That's the thing. I think it'd be nice if they go ahead and include those, but even take me, I don't go back to play Atari games. Like, I don't know anybody that really goes back to play Atari games right now. You know what I mean?
Like,
you know what I mean?
It doesn't even have to be Atari games though, because like at least like speaking for me personally, like I played. I mean, you already know me. I've played every single Pokemon game there is, and for years, like growing up, like I would constantly go back to the old ones. Like I would always go back to my OG like blue like cartridge, my silver cartridge, my gold cartridge until the battery on that died, my crystal cartridge until the battery on that died. Like you would just keep going back to these older titles. And what I think is interesting that you kind of both brought up is that it's really kind of it's in terms of like weighing it out, like it's kind of like that experience of nostalgia versus convenience. You know, it's like, which one do you really want? And I'll give you like a non-gaming example. For me, I have a decent collection of manga, like physical books, and I love me some manga. I love reading manga, but lately I've been buying them a little all digitally, and that's mainly because some of the titles that I've been buying, it's harder to find physical copies of those, and some of them they don't even have physical copies. Like they're only selling it digitally. So lately I'm leaning more towards the convenience of it, of just getting it digitally versus trying to hunt down for a decent condition of a book that I want and hope that I get it. And it's just kind of like that. And so while, like, for me personally, I think that what Xbox is doing with backwards compatibility with their most recent console is great. I think with Game Pass, I think it's awesome. But I do see where you're coming from, Malachi, because a lot of the times, like, for me, I like the option, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually going to go into it and actually explore some of these older games. And honestly, like, I feel like the argument of backwards compatibility is really an argument that kind of our generation is having. Like, I don't think Gen Zers are really having that argument of backwards compatibility because, I mean, the games that they grew up with are, for the most part, like, still pretty relevant. They don't really necessarily need to go back too far along. Whereas a lot of the games that we played, PlayStation 2, like PlayStation 1, and 64, like some of our older people would maybe say, like maybe Sega or Dreamcast. There are a lot of games that were just made way back in the day, and they just don't plan on doing any remakes or doing any revamps. And sometimes you just have some days off, and you're like, you know what? I just want to play some Jump Force. But instead of playing Jump Force, it's Soul Calibur. You want to play it on your Dreamcast again. So it's kind of one of those things. And especially like when it comes to like the PS3 or PS Vita, like I'm really glad that they're keeping it for the Vita, just because I'm a huge fan of the Vita. But, like, in terms of the PS3, I'm like, who's still playing the PS3? But I also have to think, well, who's still playing the PS Vita? So it's just like, you know, if there's at least one person out there that wants it, there's probably a lot more.
Now here's a few things I want to throw out there, because I do see that that ALWT Labs threw on here that those can currently be emulated. And I think you were talking about previously, like some of the games we were talking about. Mildew says for now people are working on that, but it's going to take a powerful PC. So here's another thing, is that one, we have to also remember that these systems, no matter who you're talking about, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, they are consoles. They're not going to be. We can't hold them to the same standard as a PC. We can't. They're not built to that point. They're starting to become more like it, but ultimately they still have to make sure it's cost effective for the consumer to buy. You know what I mean? And all the stuff for the future. That's what it's going to be for. What I never want is to get a PlayStation 6 and then wait until 7 years later for PlayStation 6 games because we're too worried about PlayStation 5, PS4, PS1, making sure that all carries over. That's not what you want. Like, why would you buy a new console then at that point? Another thing I would also say too as well, on here you said, I'm a guy who's a gamer who just hasn't the time because I haven't had the time in life. Do I deserve to get punished? I respectfully disagree with that. If you like to do something, you're going to find time to do it, regardless. That goes for me too as well. I love dancing. I love playing video games. I love drawing. I love doing all that. You're going to find time to do it. Now, it may not be the time that you want to invest. You might want to invest 8 hours, but you only have time for 2. So that's something to look into as well. And that's going to be anything in life, actually, that you're going to have to sacrifice one thing or another if you really want to do something. And so that's. Did he say dancing? Yes, I said dancing. Initial Dylan. Yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. But yeah, like I like doing all the different types of stuff. But again, ultimately, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, if I want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm taking a week off work for that. You know what I mean? That's exactly what I did. So yeah. So if you want to go ahead and you have time to game. Milton Carey, shut up, man. I love you, man. But anyway, but yeah, so like ultimately, if you're going to want to do something, you're going to find time to do it. Again, it just comes down to how much are you willing to invest into that time period. But going back to the future, like I don't think Nintendo or PlayStation really has to do anything drastic to that. I think that it'd be nice for them to consider moving forward the backwards compatibility portion of it, so that way we can again have that convenience feature available. Will it be a system? Go ahead.
I about to say I noticed though if you look, they've already begun to consider it. It was
exactly. Yeah.
If you look at the PlayStation 4 when they showed the PlayStation 5, it's similar yet different at the same time, which means they probably are using similar architect, and it's probably gonna be one of the more mainstays going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Which will allow for that, but also it helps I guess I would say bridge the gap between, like you said, I wouldn't say like you say 67 years to make a game. No, but it will take time before you get that good PlayStation 5 game. Like the first few games, probably the PlayStation 5, probably been more experimental games.
Mm-hmm.
People, third party, getting into it, getting used to it, and getting their hands dirty with it. Once they get used to it, you end up with like Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that. Once they get into it, I think backwards compatibility is more or less there to help bridge the gap between that moment.
100%.
And it helps you to move forward. I mean, I wouldn't say if you're gonna stay in the past, just keep the consoles of the past.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to play, like if I'm not gonna, I want to play PlayStation 5 games right now, but I don't really see any. So for right now, I only got a PlayStation 4.
we don't even see any PS5s. let's be honest.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, they got to fix that issue first.
Yeah.
Well, but this was something. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying real quick, and that was an issue for me because I'm really waiting to see a big PlayStation 5 release or reveal that's about to come out. Then I'm probably going to start really investing into it. But as of right now, I just stayed invested in the PlayStation 4.
I want Ragnarok.
Yeah. Real quick, initial and I apologize if I'm saying your name. If it's Dylan or Dylon, because I actually know a Dylon. But initial Dylon says, "What's your take on Battle Royale games? How long do you think it will last before the hype dies down?" I'm going to be honest with you. I think it did die down. I think there's only 3 that stand on the top, and that's Fortnite, that's Apex, and Call of Duty, and that is it. I like Spellbreak. I enjoy Spellbreak, but that's not really in a particular lane. It's surviving because it's different, but it's still a battle royale.
It's slowly sinking.
Yes, even for freaking Hyperscape, that was supposed to be one that blew minds, and it just didn't even really do all that well. PUBG is massive still. Yeah, but I can't put it on the same level as Fortnite though. Unfortunately, Fortnite is not even really a game anymore. It's just a service.
It really depends on like what market you're referring to as well, because like if you think about more of a global market, like PUBG is definitely up there. Like the Chinese market for PUBG like is definitely up there.
Yeah, I know that.
If I'm not mistaken, I think right now Apex is doing really it's like super hype in Japan right now.
Yeah, very much.
So like so like if you look at it globally, there definitely like you're gonna see some variations, but for the most part, like it's gonna be kind of like the same 4 or 5 that are always gonna be rotating at the top. In terms of like how long it's gonna last, honestly, I don't really see it going anywhere. I think if anything, we'll probably just see it slowly evolve. Because if anything, that's kind of what we've been seeing this entire time. At least from my perspective, like it was really like called like world. It was one of the like older Call of Duty games where it was I can't remember. It was one of the older Call of Duty games that was on was all over PlayStation and mainly like Xbox 360, which was what a lot of my friends played it on, where like everyone was just playing COD. And honestly, like if you look at like kind of the controls for those games, a lot of other games that came afterwards fully adopted those types of controls in terms of like aiming down your sights, in terms of switching out your your primary weapon for your sidearm. We're just kind of seeing a slow evolution as to what these games kind of are. And if anything, I don't think that we'll see it kind of die down. I think we're just going to see it evolve into something different. At the very least, from what I've heard with Fortnite lately, it kind of sounds like Fortnite's just trying to be all of the above.
Fortnite.
It sounds like Fortnite is like
you're bringing in actual people. You're bringing in The Rock. You're bringing in Neymar. You're bringing in actual John Wick. You know what I mean? You're bringing all these different people inside Fortnite. So, anybody want a peanut?
Player game.
Yep. Anybody want a peanut says Apex also just recently launched on the Switch, which I do have a Switch. I don't know if it's cross-play yet for that. I know it is for PC and PS4 and Xbox One.
Crossplay for PS4 and PC?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crossplay now, but I don't think it is for the Switch as of yet, and I'm kind of scared for the Switch players as of right now.
Uh-oh, I'm about to get that.
I'm scared to
download my Apex on Origins and give it a shot.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of see about that. If the console dies, then the console dies. I'm talking about the chip timing of life, your system, and then once the timer ends, you are locked out of everything. The system will eventually have the disc. This is happening with PS4, so you're saying, well, even for that, LSP Live, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you're referencing the PS4 to the PS5, that's non-existent because there's only 10 games that was not compatible with the PS4 to the PS5. That's one of the features that they did add in there for people.
How dare they not include those 10 games?
Yeah. Oh, the biggest title on that was like Samurai, like Afro Samurai. That was like the biggest title game.
Those were the only 10 games that I ever play. I don't play anything else. I can only play them on there. Bringing this up though, it's because this was actually something that I think around the time that it was announced that they were going to drop support for the Vita store and the PS3 store. There was actually a video that went up that was actually like talking about. Do you guys remember PlayStation Home for the PS3?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was like the Sims.
It was like this whole video that was talking about this huge community of people who apparently still really like to play like PlayStation Home to this day, and they were really upset about them dropping it from the store, like just dropping the store in general. And some people are actually trying to like completely recreate it, so that way they could continue to play it. And I guess it just kind of goes to show that like there are some people who just they just love what they love, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. And especially, and this was something that was mentioned in the chat before, in regard to emulation. Like there are a lot of older games now. You're seeing them starting to become emulator, like they're just mainstays on emulators. Even like with emulating devices. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with that, but some of the devices that they're making to run emulators in terms of like handheld games, they're slick. Like some of them are getting really good, and they're just constantly getting better. Like I know there's I think like one or two of them like that are able to run up to like Vita, up to like PlayStation 2, like barely like some PlayStation 2 games. Mm-hmm. But I believe it was somebody in the chat that was mentioning you would need a really powerful device to kind of like run all of those.
Yeah, that was LSP Live. Yeah, LSP Live was mentioning that.
Yeah, and to an extent, like especially like for those people, you know, per se that just have that drive to really play the old things that they love to play, like PlayStation Home, they're gonna find, like you said, they're gonna find a way to play those games. And if that means that they have to make an emulator and completely rebuild it from the ground up, they'll do it. But at the same time, the original publishers no longer have control over what the public does with that. And so if you want to kind of keep control over those IPs and how people can access those games, you kind of want to make sure your store stays up, so that way you can kind of control who can get access to that game, I guess.
Yeah. You were actually telling me before that somebody had went out and bought parts to build her own Switch. She found a way to go ahead and have herself her own Switch and everything like that.
I don't remember who it was. I apologize. It was a really interesting video. Just if you go to YouTube and just look up like I built my own Switch. She actually like kind of like leaves a comment on the video saying that like the reason she built her own Switch was because she couldn't buy one. Like they were just completely sold out. They were really hard to get, and so she went out and she just like bought up like a whole bunch of different working Switch parts and then assembled her own Switch for like I think a little under $300, which is about like what a Switch costs anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like that's an example right there. Like if you really want something, you'll find a way to get it. And if you have to build an entire console yourself just to get it, well, I guess people will do that.
Real fast, going on to the chat before we going back to the chat before we go ahead and dive into story number 2. We actually spent a lot of time on that one. Good conversation. I've been enjoying it. I mean, if you guys don't know, PlayStation lovers, Xbox lovers, PC lovers, we just love games. You know what I mean? But anyway, on over here, initial Dylon says Apex is on Switch and is a bot lobby. So thank you very much again for that, because I haven't actually dove into that. Let's be live. I think you're completely misunderstanding me. I apologize, man. I think you might be getting. I think we're getting your chat a little delayed, because I think I may have missed the initial response on that. Initial says, I think camping is rough, and if there's a battle royale, then that alerts people where you are. If you stand too long, that would be cool. More pushy games.
Actually, there was an old mode on Unreal Tournament known as Campfire. So what this mod would do, you would have 5 seconds.
Oh, it's been years since I played that.
Yeah. You had like 5 or 10 seconds to find somebody getting a shootout. Otherwise, you blow up and die.
I mean, that's actually in an anime, though, too. Not the blow up and die portion, but I'm just saying it's in the anime, sort of online Fatal Bullet, or the GGO saga. Like, there's that time period where every 10 minutes a scan will go by, and you're able to go ahead and see where everyone's located on the map. So I think that would be kind of cool if they implemented something similar. It doesn't have to be sort of online. I will have no complaints if they do. But I'm just saying, I think that'd be kind of cool if they implemented something like that as a Battle Royale, if Battle Royale was to still be the genre 5 years from now. Anybody want opinion says, Shadow Complex is actually pretty dope, unfortunately. Why is that unfortunate? That's pretty dope.
That was an original Xbox. What was it, 360 title?
I don't know.
It still exists.
Probably, yeah. Most high-end phones have the capability to some extent. Wife says foods getting cold. Love you guys. Hopefully tune back in shortly. Love you too, man. Appreciate you for tuning in. And yeah, we still got a few more stories to go. So let's keep this show on the roll with story number 2. Sequel. You want to talk about sequels? All right. Stephen Wright from GameSpot says a change.org petition that calls for Sony to greenlight Days Gone 2 has amassed over 50,000 signatures. The petition was launched in early April and has 56,000 signatures as of this writing. So while this article went live, it had 56,000 signatures. As noted by BGC, the news follows a report from Bloomberg that states that the developer Sony Bend prepared a pitch for Days Gone 2 that was rejected by Sony, apparently due to its mixed critical receptions. That report also claimed that a remake of The Last of Us, Days Days Gone, has scored a Metascore of 71 on Metacritic. Ooh, that's not good. For comparison's sake, fellow first-party Sony title Last of Us Part 2 did a 93. Since the publication of that report and the word of several key creative staff behind the open world zombie game have left Sony Bend, fans and developers alike have expressed their frustration with the lack of Days Gone 2. Director John Garvin stated in a conversation with Twisted Metal creator David Jaffe that fans should, quote, buy a game at full effing price if they love it, end quote. So
I mean, but not if you're trying to shove it down my throat. Like if you're trying to like prevent me from if you're trying to prevent me from like being able to play a game that I've already paid full price for, and then you're saying like I gotta pay full price for it again.
No, he's not talking about that. He's saying if you see a game, you're interested in it, and you play it and like you love it, everything like that. Like buy it. Like go ahead and buy it, because the more money that the developers are able to make from your purchase, the more that they can possibly entice Sony, Xbox, Nintendo, whatever like that, to have a sequel. If the game doesn't, and yeah, that's what he's saying, is that he's frustrated that people, and it's obviously frustration because he dropped some language in the interview, but it was just like, if you want a sequel, support the game. You can't expect a sequel, a part 2 of a game that doesn't do well. So, and Metacritic has shown that it was a 71 overall, which is not, even with our Metacritic league that we have going on right now, that would only give us 1 point.
I got 0 for Oddworld.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it right now, actually, as we're speaking about this. Fantasy Gaming League. There we go. Fantasy Critic, bam. Here we go. Yeah, you definitely got. No, you got one. You got 1 point. Yeah, but that's the thing. It only gives you. It only, like, if you want, and this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of like a supporter of buying games day one if it looks very interesting and looks enticing for this reason. Now, will I say that the way he went about it, I probably wouldn't had agreed for him to do it that way. but I get his frustration though, because again, like, if you want to go ahead, if you want to see a Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, you need to buy the game. If you don't buy the game, the studio's not making money. The studio's not making money, making sales, and not being rated high on Metacritic or any other open critic review. Then when they try to go ahead and be like, hey, that game that only scored a 70 on Metacritic, we want to make a second one. Sony, you mind funding us? They're going to be like, hell no. You know what I mean? There was like a one and done.
It was a problem, though, with DayZ, though. Not DayZ.
Days Gone?
The Days Gone. It's basically, it picked a bad time to come out. If you're launching with all these zombie games, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Well, but to your point, and just to be fair, not all the time the developers had that say to, you know what I mean?
Know.
Like, especially I would say if the game's done. If the game is done, they're not going to really have a whole lot of time to be like, hey, we want to launch summer because we don't want to clash with Last of Us Part 2. Like, if Sony's just like, no, we want to have The Last of Us Part 2, but then maybe another game that people will be interested in a month later, Days Gone, so we can try to keep that going. If it does well, awesome, we'll consider it. If not, all right, you guys had your time to shine.
That just feels like a bad, like, I just feel like that's just a bad business model.
I mean, that's just me.
Oh, no, that was a really good explanation, because like that totally makes sense. But like, just kind of like if you look at it from like the developer's perspective, like it's like they work hard on this game. It's just like they worked so hard on like this piece of art, and if nobody's going to be paying attention to the art, then what's the point of putting it out there? Like, like maybe like if it's like for your own like self like gratification and your self fulfillment, like that's fine. But like, if the goal is to make money from it, that should be the end goal. Like, to be able to market the game and put it out there in the best possible way to make money. And if you look at someone who's like another developer who's making a game that's very similar in concept, or at least has like the same theme, like it's like multiple zombie games at the same time, it's just kind of, it's going to get lost in the fold. It's going to be forgotten. It's going to be a game that like maybe people don't give enough appreciation to, and then they might actually end up giving it more appreciation down the line once, you know, things have calmed down, maybe once people like go back to like replay it, and that's just kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But like, you would think that developers would say, you know, there's like 5 zombie games releasing this holiday season. Do we want to like do we want to be the 6th, or do we want to wait later? And to it, I guess like you could also make the argument of like, oh, like you want to hop on this train while it's still going because it might not be there for several months down the road.
Yeah.
But like, which is worse? Like, is it competing for the attention, or, you know, having the risk that whatever your game was about might not be relevant anymore?
Yeah. And I also think that it will be important to as you stated, if you're going up against a big title, you're already kind of at a disadvantage. So it comes down to, how are you marketing it? How are you showcasing it? Because guess what came out during the same time period that The Last of Us Part 2 came out? Ghost. Is anyone sleeping on Ghost? No. You know what I mean? The way they kind of delivered
games,
that.
though, aren't they?
They are different. They are different games.
Or...
Yeah. They are definitely two different games and everything like that. Because even for Days Gone, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that came out during another zombie type game. Did it? I don't think it did. Actually, I think that came at the tail end of the Walking Dead series.
I'll say this: like around the time that game came out, I was already done with zombies. Like I was already done.
And I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing. I think we saw all these zombie games, including Resident Evil, that came out earlier that year.
Resident Evil does not have zombies.
Not zombies. They're
infected or whatever you want to call.
Sick. They're sick. T-virus.
Yeah. Anybody want a peanut says, all right, back trying to compete with the AAA titles during the holidays is also a thing. Yes, definitely. Ghost had almost zero similarities with Last of Us Part 2. Yes. Yeah, that is correct. But I'm just saying as far as an IP standpoint, because no one heard of Ghost of Tsushima before that. We've heard of Last of Us Part 2, and if you see two games coming out at the same time, even though they have no reference to each other, it's just like, all right, I'm familiar with Last of Us Part 1. I like Last of Us Part 1. Do I really want to try to spend $120 to get Last of Us Part 1 and Ghost of Tsushima, which I know nothing about? Or should I just get one of them, and if one, which one? Chances are you're going to choose Last of Us Part 2.
I feel like a better comparison for that competition would be if Ghost of Tsushima came out around the time Sekiro Shadows Die Twice came out.
Yeah.
I mean, if those two came out during the same time, that's a lot of overlay. That's a lot of
new IPs and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct about that. And I wasn't even talking about similarities. I was just talking about, okay, it could be any game. I could make a Tetris game. And I want to go ahead and launch it.
Stop it. No more Tetris games. There's too many.
But I'm just saying.
Too many.
I'm just saying if I made all right, let's say a Fortnite 2. Let's say if I made a Fortnite 2 game or something like that, they had to pay for, and it's brand new or whatever. Or let's not even say Fortnite because that actually exists. Let's say if I come out with a brand new samurai game that's not Ghost of Tsushima, it's just a whole new samurai, and I wanted to plan a good time to drop it. Even though Horizon Zero Dawn is nothing like a samurai game, I might not want to drop it so close to Horizon Zero Dawn because I want to make sure I have all eyes on this game. I want to make sure I'm expanding my purchase. You know what I mean? I want to make sure I'm expanding my sales. Yes, I could drop it at $30, but if someone's already typed for money on a monthly budget and they went ahead and bought Horizon Zero Dawn, they might want to wait on my game a little bit later, or may even just overlook it because they forgot about it. I would rather come out with it to where there's almost no competition during that month, possibly like 2 weeks at most. Just because I want to make sure that I'm able to get the most sales possible. I want to have the most eyes possible. Because if I come out on a month that is dropping Horizon Forbidden West and Spider-Man 2 in the same month, you can forget dropping that month. You can forget dropping that month because no one's going to be paying attention. They're going to be talking about Spider-Man and Horizon. Two entirely different games, but because of where their development has taken them, they're on a whole levels of expectations and hype and day one purchases and cosplays and all that stuff that's coming out. Anybody want a peanut says Sekiro then having to advantage since from coming off the coattails of Souls. Yeah, I think that, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that if Sekiro came out during Bloodborne, they'd be battling each other. But because it's coming out after Bloodborne and all that stuff, and people might be in the mood for Souls-type games, like, Sekiro's the way to go.
I think, because I was just thinking about this while he was speaking at the same time, I think with Days Gone, I think it's a thing of it got better as age goes by.
I agree.
I know you have heard of Vampires the Masquerade, right?
Yeah, which I'm actually waiting for.
Vampires the Masquerade 1, actually, the company went out of business upon launch. This game actually came out in a very bad state and basically went into obscurity for a while, but a fan base managed to bring it back. Another game like that, cycle on, and it actually becomes a better game as it goes. I'm trying to think of a third one. Another one, which was interesting, actually, was the Orange Box.
Yeah. Portal and everything.
Portal, actually, they didn't think was going to do that well. That's why they included it for free in the orange box upon launch.
Mm.
It actually took off and actually is now considered one of the top 10 best games to ever launch. There was another game I was going to bring up. Oh, Kingdoms of Amalur: The Reckoning.
Why you have to hurt me so?
No. This is the one I was trying to get to, but I couldn't think about the name of it. This game actually was a great game, but it suffered the same fate. Mm-hmm. It launched and people thought it was like Skyrim. I don't know if Skyrim was out. Fable and all that. But it was a totally different game. It just had a similar look. And so what happens when it launched, it didn't gain the notoriety or anything that it was supposed to. And it ended up going down into obscurity, which took, what was that company? Big Giant Games, I believe.
No, I don't think it was Big Giant. Kirk Schilling was with them, was he?
Yeah, Kirk Schilling's. Yeah, it took that entire company down. But now it's been picked up by THQ Nordic because, to be honest, this has a huge fan base behind it. A lot of people have been voting for a long time for Kingdoms of Amalur. I feel like Days Gone is kind of getting into that vein to where it may have launched just in a bad window. People may have overlooked it, but now they're finally having time to spin back to it, and especially since it came into PlayStation Plus. People are now planning on, oh, wow, I can't believe I just overlooked this game. I mean,
yeah.
And now I think it's ready. I think they should go ahead and try a part 2.
They're not going to. Everyone left. Everyone left the Sony bend. And that's what he's saying is that, like, hey, if you guys had actually paid attention during this time period, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Because most people, when did Days Gone come out? What, 2017, 2018?
I'd have to look.
All right. So, yeah, I was about to say, during that, like, here we are now, what, 3 years later, 2 or 3 years later, possibly, and this is kind of pending, but here we are coming out at this time period, and now people are demanding and wanting a Days Gone 2. It's just like, guys, we moved on. Like, it's free on Plus now. It's part of the PlayStation Collection, yeah, but we moved on now. Like, you guys
This is my argument with basically
2019.
2019, yeah, that's 2 years. Yeah. Or you're saying that they should have demos?
I'm saying that they should have. I'm saying that they should have demos. I think demos actually would have helped. I mean, would it save the game? Probably not. But
no, you were talking about that, like something about that just the other day about like try before you buy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, and I see both. I see both points of it. I also want to admit, as a consumer, there's a lot of stuff that's actually on us too. Like, if we don't do our part, they're not gonna, because there might be stuff that behind the door that we don't know about that they just can't talk about. They're just trusting that we're gonna do our part and purchase and support these games. And if we don't do that, if we're like, oh, you know what, I'll just get it on Game Pass when it comes out down the road. And it's not like a day-and-date thing.
Speaks louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because even so, I think that's another thing that's kind of in the mix of everything is that, and I think this is kind of the way that it's going. I could be completely wrong, but I think one of the ways that is benefiting Game Pass is that people can try that and like it and all that good stuff. But if they try it and they don't like it, and then it ends up coming out for other consoles later on, or leaves Game Pass, and then now you have to buy it, people it has a bad taste in their mouth. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you're not going to, even though it might be a fantastic game, if not enough people are trying it, that's going to end up biting them in the rear. And that's exactly what's going on right now, is that not a lot of people had tried it, and this is why the developer's feeling the way that he is. Not enough people had tried it. Now it's on PlayStation Plus for this month, I think. It's on PlayStation Plus Collection, in case you missed it. So that way you can at least try it. But now these guys are on to other things, so maybe support them on their other titles, but don't try to be like, oh, we need Days Gone 2 now. We need that, because that window of opportunity is gone.
Yeah, or you could just support their newer titles, so that way they actually have enough revenue and support behind them to be like, you know what, now that we're done with this newer title, let's go back and maybe revisit a sequel.
Yeah,
because I mean, like that's pretty much
the Masquerade.
Yeah, yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, it's a double-edged sword thing, because as consumers, we're looking for the best value in video games. So if we see something and we're unsure about it, we might check it out until it comes down in price. But then if it comes down in price,
$60.
yeah, 60. Now it's gonna be 70. You know what I mean? Now and then if it comes down in price and you try it at that time period, it's like $20. You buy it for $20. You're like, crap, this game is actually really awesome. I would have paid full price. You can't go back in time and be like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to buy this at full price. You made your decision. You have to live with the decision that you made. You can't get upset for the developers on not making a second one when you didn't support it on the first one from the get-go. You know what I mean? It's a double-edged sword thing. Yes, we don't know what we're getting into, but at the same time, big risk, big reward. I can't tell you how many times I came across amazing games because I went ahead and took a risk on it. Is it always the wisest thing? Maybe not. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want to go ahead and actually wait for what the reviews say. You might want to go ahead and wait for it to come down in price and see how you like it. You might even wait for it to come on Game Pass and everything like that to see how you like it there. Those are all strategies. But if the game ends up being amazing and they decide not to go with the second one because it didn't sell well off the beginning, that's on us. That's on us as consumers.
Yeah, but like you said, it's double-edged. It's really hard on that one because I understand people come from. I've been burned a few times in a couple games.
Oh yeah, me too.
In the past, where you buy a game at full price, you think it's the best thing ever, and then you get it home, you put it in, and you're like, let's just go back to the store.
We actually just talked about this the other day. Like me, Levu, and Gravity. Like I enjoy Godfall. Levu doesn't really like it. Like he'll play it with friends, but he's not invested inside the story. Gravity, I think, is kind of the same boat as me. We'll play it with friends, but it's not amazing. It's not anything spectacular. Yeah. It looks beautiful. It plays great, but it's just like plotline. There's nothing that's engaging you there.
It's really all it has going for it. And honestly, you can make the same argument about Jump Force. Like it looks really pretty. The play style of it is really fun, but the story for it is just absolute garbage. And so it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, like I've been playing Jump Force for hours these past couple days, but the story, every time a cutscene comes up, I'm just like, skip. Nope, sorry, I don't want to deal with that. Like, let's just get to the fighting. But it's exactly kind of like what you said. Like it can have like some of those things, but just because it doesn't have like all those things doesn't necessarily mean it can't be a good game. But it also doesn't necessarily mean that it's, it can't not be a bad game. Like it's because I like the idea of try before you buy, and I've seen this, and maybe I'm just not looking hard enough because like I know when I was younger I used to like always go to the demo section, like in the PlayStation Store. Every time I opened the PlayStation Store, the demo section was like the first place that I went to check out like newer games to see if I could play some newer games. And at least from what I realized was that a lot of the newer games that were like really big titles just kind of stopped making demos.
Yeah.
And what you started to see was that they would have like open betas for like an hour or like a day. And if you miss that day, if you have work that day, if you have school that day, you just don't get to try it out. Yeah. And so all of your friends might have different opinions on it. Like some of your friends might be super hyped for what it is, but maybe it's not what you want to do. And so it's just like you have to kind of decide, is it worth the money? And especially now the games are up there at $60 going up to $70. We've been hearing that we have this conversation all the time. Like all of us at least we tried gaming always talk about is it worth $60? Mm-hmm. Like that's always the thing that we come back to. It's like, yeah, but is it worth that much money? Like, no, it's usually worth like $40 or like $20 as to what we would say. And a lot of the times I've been burned so many times. There's so many games in my library that I thought were going to be great, and then they were just not what I wanted. It's not that they were necessarily bad games. It's just that they just weren't what I wanted to play at the time. And they're games that I probably won't go back and revisit unless I have absolutely nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And absolutely right.
Yeah, I remember back in the I remember back in the time period where you could just watch a trailer and know a game's good by the trailer, just because the CGI things. Now, because of how technology is and how creative people can be, the trailer's not enough anymore. And it's just like, what are we going to have to go off of? Because right now, all we have to go off of for new IPs, that is, are chances. If you're not familiar with the series, it's a chance that you're taking. And it was a chance that I took with Ghost of Tsushima. I enjoyed every bit of it. is a chance I took even for Final Fantasy VII Remake because I didn't know how they were going to actually remake it. I loved every bit of it. You know what I mean? Because that's technically a new IP. It's not really, it has original content, but the story was all brand new, all fresh. It was not stuff that you were used to inside the original in the first place. Same thing for Horizon. When that first came out, that's a new IP. You're taking a chance on that. So I think if they literally make a solid game and are putting in the work and the effort and all of that, you really don't need a demo. You just need to be transparent with your marketing and the way that the game plays and the expectations. Try to adjust that as best as possible for the consumer. But then you also have people that know that they're doing dead wrong. Cough, cough. Cyberpunk 2077. The way that they marketed that, the way they hyped that. And then you're just like, okay, you have your whole terrible fiasco. I think even Duke Nukem even did something very similar to that. What's up?
Okay, I got a couple things real quick. I was telling them off stream, I'm at the end of Cyberpunk. The thing about Cyberpunk is the problem wasn't the story, it was the technical aspect. They was not ready. I feel like the story is pretty solid. The world is not bad at all. It has a lot of people. You can set for like mass crowds or lower crowd density. I think I might around, I don't know how high it is, I need to look. But it's pretty good. It's just the technical aspects. Like I said, I always say about 1 billion times. I was fortunate. Mines didn't really go out as much, and I didn't really have much in the way of problems. But for early consoles, they shouldn't have focused backwards, but they should have went forward on this one.
I agree.
But going back though, I'm gonna go back real quick too to what Gravity said. I'm sorry I'm jumping around, but
no, you good.
I really wasn't on Cyberpunk. I was just gonna jump back to this real quick. A game just recently did that. What was it? Resident Evil 8. I believe they released a demo and only lasted for like 2 days.
Maiden. The Maiden, where it was Village. It was actually you walking because you played it. You played it at my house there, Gravity.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like that was actually an example. That's actually a really good example because like we played that, and I've got to say honestly, like because like we kept referring it to it as the Village. I completely like just forgot that it was a Resident Evil game. Mm-hmm. Not even gonna lie, like as I was playing it, and it was like after we were done playing, I was like, oh shoot, that's Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. Like, ooh, that was like because like I was actually interested in it. Not for the fact that it was connected to such a large franchise, but just the fact that just the play style of it was just really interesting. The world that they crafted was really interesting. What they had you do in the demo was really interesting. And you really don't even need to like make a whole separate demo necessarily. I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about it. So maybe you do. But like ideally you could just take like the first chunk of the game. You could even just take the tutorial. Like some of these games like are making tutorials that are like 30 minutes to an hour long that don't need to be that long. Like you could just take that entire tutorial level, just throw that out there as a demo, have people do that, and then give the option to people to like skip the tutorial when they get in there who may have already played it, where they're like, okay, you know what? Cool. So this is what the gameplay is like. This is what it's going to be like. Awesome. Like I'm all for it. Like, I think they're like, especially like as games are getting more pricey, there needs to be some sort of try before you buy. There needs to be some sort of transparency with the consumers so that way they know what they're buying. So that way, like you can actually like so that way they can make sure that they get what their money's worth.
Yeah, and I am on both sides because I think the try before you buy, the demos, all that stuff is great. I kind of wish, because I think this is even what PlayStation was doing for a good portion of it. Those time trials where you can play an hour of it, like I miss a lot of those. Like we have it right now for Lyricist. It was the sort of online game Lyricist and everything like that. Definitely check that out. But and I currently have that in my cart right now. But at the same time, I think in some scenarios, and this is why I'm like it's a double-edged sword. I think in some scenarios it won't do it justice, because you might have some of those games where you're just like, hey, it starts off slow because this is how the storytelling is. You have to put in at least 3 hours, and then it will start actually getting good. And that might even be the best game that you ever played. If you only play like the first hour of it and you're not into it, and it's just like, all right, well, I'm not going to pick up this game, that just costs you a sale, when later on that could have been something that was taking my own experience right now. And I talk about this at maybe twice a show. Final Fantasy VII Original did nothing for me. I played the first hour and did nothing for me. I hated Final Fantasy VII at that point because I was like, I'm never playing this, never going back. Long story, which I'll skip all that. Comes back to it. I gave it another try, and I got through a little bit more of it, and I went ahead and got to the point where you wake up in prison and there's blood everywhere. There's sword shillings on the wall. There's trails of blood and bodies just leading up to the main point. That at that point is when the game shifted for me. And it was no longer a crappy turn-based game. It was very immersive, very story-driven, very interactive, and it wasn't just the like, you go, I go, you go, I go. Sometimes when that timer goes, you might be going 3 times in a row, but you have to be quick on your... It's strategy-based. And that was something that opened my eyes to that. Had I had a demo of the hour that I played, I would have never picked up Final Fantasy VII original. But if I bought it and I played that first hour and I didn't like it, I might be inclined to come back to it and give it another chance because I did invest money into it. So I see both sides of it to where you might want to have demos for some games, but then you might not want to have demos for others. And that's just kind of a weird gray area that we're in.
Yeah,
Speaking of Final Fantasy VII. Oh, no, actually, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I had a friend that had something similar to that. Mm-hmm. That's how we got into Star Wars Battlefront 2. My friend started to play the demo in the store. I think we said at Walmart or something. Ended up about beating the whole game, and he was like, "Yeah, I better buy this."
And that's a thing. Like I mean, you don't want to have full on trials to where you just beat it all in one sitting, because then
do you guys remember that? Like being able to. Do you guys remember? Now that you mentioned it, I just completely forgot about all this. Where because you still see it in like GameStops and other stuff, but like specifically game stores. But like being able to go into a store and actually try out a console, to try out certain games there in the store. Mm-hmm. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, that used to be a thing.
All right, that, I just had a whole flashback of just being a kid in the game aisle, just looking up at the TV, and just your parents are shopping. You're like, don't worry about me, I'll be here.
Exactly.
I'll be here. Don't worry about it.
I'm at least do that all the time. We used to go to game section in Sears and.
Yeah, man. We're gonna go ahead and shift gears to
off of what you were saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. What I was going to say really quick was that because you were making that comparison to Final Fantasy VII, what about the demo for Final Fantasy VII Remake? Because that to me, that was a really good demo. That was what really convinced. That to me, that was I liked that, and that was actually the first part of it. And so even if I wasn't already familiar with the Final Fantasy VII franchise and series in general, I would play that and be fun. This actually is a pretty good demo. But there's still so much to the game that just makes it even better.
Well, and you actually just proved my point even more. They're both the same universe, Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake, but they're different play styles. One of them is action type based, which is be kind of good for experiencing on a demo. Another one is turn based, and if that was a demo, that wouldn't be good. You know what I mean?
You just have to get that hook. Yeah, you just have to get that hook right in the demo.
Yeah. Mildew Carrot comments and says, so what about Final Fantasy 16? Honestly, we'll have to see. We'll have to, if they come out with a demo for that, by all means, I'm going to jump on that. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, because again, they want a lot of these games, even for Final Fantasy 15, let's take that for example. They had a demo for that. They had a demo, but it had nothing to do with the game. And part of that is because one of the main elements for Final Fantasies in particular, which is why I believe that not a lot of them have demos, is for one simple fact: story. That is a key element in Final Fantasy. You know what I mean? You have music, you have graphics and characters, you have difficulty, and you have story. Those are the biggest things that you have for Final Fantasy. Gameplay, not so much, because up for 11 of them, they were turn-based. And then they started getting inside the whole ATB where you're kind of moving around a little bit more, and all the way up until Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is ATB still, but it doesn't feel ATB because it's all live action right then and there. So for 16, I would love for them to have a demo. I would love for them to have a trial. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, because again, the whole essence of Final Fantasy is story, which I don't want to say it will be dampened because of the demo, but it could be. Music, gameplay, and difficulty. That's usually how it is for a Final Fantasy game.
It's also a juggernaut of a title too. It's a juggernaut of a franchise, and so at that point, it's just one of those franchises that even if it's going to make if they're going to make another game, they already know that people are going to buy it. Like Square already knows, like if they make another Kingdom Hearts game, they have my money. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon makes another game, they have my money.
Silent Hill.
ALWT Live says so. You jump on the RE8 demos. We jumped on the Maiden just to see what that was like. I actually tried. Which one was the one that had Leon inside the police station? You know what I'm talking about?
Was that?
I can't remember which remake it was. It was the one before.
Oh, Leon. You said Leon.
Yeah.
That'll be Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2, the latest one, like the remake. That was a remake. Okay.
The remake.
So yeah, so that one I actually jumped on, and that yep, he just said it right there. RE2. That one I jumped on, and I made it to like the chamber, and when I was coming back out, there was like zombies coming through the water, and I had to be like, oh dude, that was so. I felt so weird. And then when I went down the other hallway, after I unlocked the door, after I went down the other hallway, I saw a dead body there, and I moved his head, and it was all like mutilated and stuff. When I saw that, I turned off the game. I uninstalled it. I never went back to it. I went on to something happy. You know what I mean? We're going to shift gears to one more story. We actually have a couple more, but we might just go ahead and save some of this for a little bit later. But I definitely want to talk about, speaking of Resident Evil, we're going to talk about that, story number 5. And then we'll save the rest for later. But if you guys want to look those up, those topics itself, we already talked about the sequels. We talked about Vita and PS3 stores living. And then we're going to be talking about the Resident Evil 8 update, which is Resident Evil Village. But definitely check out the article talking about Overwatch director Jeff Kaplan is actually leaving Blizzard. So if you guys want to check that out on GameSpot.com, make sure you guys are looking into that and read that up. Very interesting stuff, and very curious about the World of Warcraft and what that's going to look like moving forward. And then, of course, make sure you guys are checking out the latest PS5 update if you guys have a PS5, talking about what storage is compatible with the PS5 for that, for anyone that's kind of going into that. But most importantly, Resident Evil Village 8 updates. Stephen T. Wright from GameSpot says another Resident Evil Reverse beta test is happening later this week, and it's open to anyone who downloads the game client on the supported consoles, according to the tweet from Capcom. According to the tweet from Capcom, the beta will run from April 20th at 11 p.m. Pacific Time, April 21st at 1 a.m. Pacific Time, to April 21st, 11 p.m. Pacific Time / April 22nd, 1 a.m. Pacific Time. With the previous beta, with the previous beta periods, Resident Evil Reverse is playable on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S. Oh no, it doesn't say S, just X, and PC via Steam.
How dare they?
Yeah.
How dare they? I feel discriminated against. It's okay.
The PS5 and Xbox Series, the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the game are previous gen versions played through backwards compatibility. Since it's a beta, you may experience unexpected maintenance and downtime, which some players complained about in the different beta tests back in early April. Reverse is a competitive shooter in the vein of the previous multiplayer Resident Evil games, such as poorly received Umbrella Corp. The players controlled heroes or villains from the RE series and duke it out for supremacy, with downed foes becoming bioweapons that they can attach to other players. You can also obtain virus capsules to become stronger as the match progresses. So I have to ask you guys, do you guys really care about Reverse?
I've seen it. I've got it because I got Resident Evil 3 and it came with Reverse. But what I've seen is kind of like a D&D Dungeon Master style setup. We have like 4 people trying to get out. You got one guy like pretty much setting up the room with zombies and stuff in him, and other traps and stuff. From what I've seen and stuff, it didn't look that interesting. It looks like it's gonna die down pretty soon. I'm not too interested in it. I don't know why they keep trying this. Like you had to bring up the, what was that one? I try to forget it every time you say it.
Umbrella Corps?
Umbrella Chronicles?
Umbrella Corps.
Yeah.
Umbrella Corps, which was just, it was terrible. It should have never had happened. I don't know if they can, I don't know how they can do it. They want to do a multiplayer mode.
Didn't they have
Oh,
multiplayer
wow.
in Resident Evil 6?
We don't talk about 6.
So let me ask you this: how many wins does Resident Evil have? Because I know that 2 is a good one. Was 3 good?
Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4 are like excellent. 5 is, yeah, that was 2 players. One person.
I actually played that one with my dad all the way
Yeah.
through.
Did you?
We finished the game and we were like, that's it.
And then it got
that was
but
it.
it got one of the
Okay.
greatest memes out of it though. Leon
Very
punching
true.
the boater.
Very true.
LSB Labs in the chat saying that the RE3 multiplayer runs very similar to Dead by Daylight. 5 is a miss and 6 is a miss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also played Revelations 2. They're okay. They kind of exist. I don't remember much about Resident Evil Revelations. It was a kind of return back, but Resident Evil 7 is when it finally found its footing again. And going into 8 looks fantastic as well.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see. I'm not playing 8, but I'm very curious to see what 8's gonna how it's gonna hold up.
I'm just waiting to see when I'm gonna finally. I'm reserving it. It's just a matter of when. Because right now I'm currently about to pre-order Mass Effect, so
The Legendary Edition. Wow.
Yeah, I'm stifling my pre-orders out so I can get them in after a check. So
Yeah.
I will hit one check with everything.
Yep. LSB Live says that is solely is you are looking for survival horror 5 and 6 are big misses.
Yeah.
So
true.
All right. Well, guys, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say 6 tried to be everything, and it tried to appeal to everybody, and don't ever do that.
But guys, that actually does it here for the gaming news portion of our ALWT Things Gaming today. Guys, real fast, I have to ask. First and foremost, Ohio inside the chat. What it do? What up, man? I do have to ask you guys, what are you currently? What's the one game that you're playing right now that's at the top of your list that you're getting through?
For me, I'd have to say Gravity Rush, like the remastered version for the PS4. I'm playing it on my PS5 because my PS5 is now in my living room. It is my main base of operation. So like any games that I'm backlogging or trying to get to, it's on my PS5. As I was saying, I had Gravity Rush on the PlayStation Vita. It was actually the first game on the Vita that I ever played. It was something that I absolutely loved the concept of, just being able to just tilt it at just kind of like tilt the whole system and be able to kind of like aim wherever you wanted to go. And I found myself really wanting that style in actually like a lot of shooters. I kind of wish had that kind of gyroscopic technology implemented into them. Because I would be down to play more first-person shooters if they had it, but it's just a game that I haven't touched since I played it on the Vita. And I'm just having a blast going back through it and being like, oh yeah, that's right, this, and I'm just like, it's all that muscle memory coming back of just playing that game. So for me, it's Gravity Rush.
All right, what about you there, Nine Ball?
Well, the aforementioned Cyberpunk 2077. Seeing as which I finally reached the last quest. I mean, you basically walk through the door, and it basically just tells you once you go through that door, you can't do no more side quests. This is it. So,
do you know about the secret ending?
Yes, but I probably won't get it in this playthrough. I kind of caught it too late, and
it's like, isn't it like that you have to like he just like keeps asking you what you want to do, and instead of like answering him, you just sit there, and then he's like, well, I guess do you want to do this instead?
You have to. There's certain parts in the thing he's going to ask you to do things, and you can either go along with it or refuse. Some things I refused on, some things I went along with. But you got to get him, from what I'm understanding, to a certain relationship level.
Yeah.
I might actually get it because what I'm doing at the end right now, this last mission, is basically going to probably be huge with him.
And we'll go ahead and wrap it up with this on here. I mean, you already know my MMORPG that I've been working on is Final Fantasy 14, but my game that I'm actually going through and trying to get to the end game content and beat is Fatal Bullet. That's the one I'm going through because, again, I really want to get to Alicization Lyricist. I want to be an Integrity Knight and just slash away. If it's anything like the third game, so there was Hollow Realization. If it's anything like the third game, because there's Hollow Fragment, Lost Song, Hollow Realization, and Fatal Bullet. If it's anything like the third game, I am in for a freaking treat. I am in for a treat for Lyricist Alicization. So, cannot wait for that. Guys, that actually does it here for, again, ALWT Things Gaming episode 45. So thank you very much again, guys, for tuning in. Anybody want to Pete? Oh, actually, I think you're already following us. Initial Dylon. What we're doing right now, and this is a little update too as well for anybody that's currently following us or listening to us on Anchor or Spotify or any other podcast. So we do a giveaway at the end of each month. We're going to kind of switch it up just a little bit. So if you're following us and sub to us, you guys actually get entries for that. If you're sub to us, you get 2 entries. If you're following us, you get 1 entry. We're going to take out the code names. And I primarily say that because most people that were winning, they would win the code names and they wouldn't respond back saying that what kind of gift card that they wanted. So we're going to go do away with the code names for now, just because that's right now that's extra work we're putting in and it's not being redeemed as such. So we're going to kind of see how this kind of goes for the next couple months, and if still nothing, we might go ahead and do something different for our followers and subscribers. That's to our channel. But yeah, all you have to do is be following us. That's 1 entry. Sub to us. That's 2 entries. If you're following and sub, that's 3 entries in total, and we're good to go there. You know what I mean? You go ahead and get yourself a free $50 gift card at the end of the month. And we'll see what's going on there. Our schedule looking is as such. This past Sunday, we had our last Sunday of all day anime. Yesterday, we had our did Mildew do a 9 to 5 Sin segment? I'm not sure. Make sure you guys are checking out their channel for that. Yeah. Typically, they do a Sin segment, which Sin stands for Strength in Numbers. It's him and TBF Abyss as they've been going through Halo. Pretty much all the Halos, that is. I can't remember which one they're on. I think they're on ODST, or they started with ODST. I can't remember, but it's one of those. Make sure you guys are checking out their channel for that. And that's www.twitch.tv/MildeweyCarrot, which you see his name inside the chat. But I'll spell it out for you for our audio listeners. MILDWY Carrot, CARROT. Make sure you guys are checking him out. Today is our ALWT Things Gaming. As we're concluding this one, we'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday is our Smite night. We're going to see how long that goes because Smite's been pissing us off lately, but we'll see. And that's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Saturday is going to be our first brand new episode of All Day Anime, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and Gravity Mark 2. 9:30 is going to be the new time on Saturday. Saturday, 9:30, All Day Anime, 9:30 Anime. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yep, All Day Anime, 30 minutes for this Saturday. Moving forward, it might go on to an hour, might go to an hour and a half, might go to 30 minutes. We'll have to see. Right now, it's a pilot for that. And then, of course, make sure you guys are being on the lookout for our calendar at www.alwtgaming.com for our next 9 to 5 segment. Until next time, everybody. Control. Alt.
Complete.
Completed.